Hello, friends of ATS. Welcome to another episode of ATS Fully Engaged Battlefield Walkarounds. Today we're going to take a look at Desperate Hours, 3 battles at Kesternich, 44 to 45. Now, were there 3 battles at Kesternich? I don't know the answer to that, but Wikipedia says there were 2. Also, the Battlefield Walkaround says there are 2. Also, there's just 2 in the module. There's no third battle. Maybe this was originally an ASL product, and there's like a third minor action at some point, or maybe one of the first battle lasted a long time, so maybe they separated it out into 2. I don't know, but in this ATS module I am showing you right now, there are 2 battles at Kesternich. The first battle of Kesternich and the second battle of Kesternich. So, now that we've settled that and everyone's all confused, let's continue. The historical situation is the first battle. So this is all near the Bulge and Hurtgen Forest and all that good stuff. And originally the Americans attacked the Roar River Dam. This village was a part of that attack, and the Americans surrounded it. And then the Bulge happened, so the Germans, tried to unsurround themselves and counterattack out, which was sort of successful, but not, of course, for very long, as eventually the Americans cleaned up the Bulge, and then they all, as well as the little Belgian town of Kesternich. During the second battle, the Germans re-infiltrated, and I don't really know what that means in the operational context. I mean, that's what Wikipedia and the Battlefield Walkaround said, and I was too lazy to look up terribly much more information. But undoubtedly, they kind of slipped through the lines. I'm not sure how they did it en masse, but they did it. So, and then, the Americans had to root them out. If you're curious, we'll get to the scenarios in depth, but there are 5 scenarios on the first battle, and then 3 scenarios on the second battle. So, there you go. Let's talk about the components. What do you get? This is the unboxing done right part of the Battlefield Walkaround. So you obviously get the map. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. You get 4 map panels. There's not many, which is nice. They might be a little tricky to mate together because there's a lot of stuff that connects. There's a ton of roads. I mean, I did a horrible job connecting them just because I'm showing this for a video, not playing. But yeah, there's a lot of roads, a lot of buildings, multiple little building pictograms within each hex, rubble. Yeah, connecting all that up is going to be a pain. But it's only 4 map panels, so it's not the end of the world. You get 4 scenario cards, 8 scenarios in total. So here we go. There's number 1. Last gasp. Number 8. You've got 4 counter sheets, which is just American personnel in OD green. Very nice. Normal stuff. Oh, hit the microphone. I'm sure that'll be a nice jolt in the audio for you. You've got U.S. AFEs and H weapons. These are not winterized, or they are winterized? Unclear. The Germans are definitely winterized. We'll show them here in a second. We'll just jump right to the German vehicles, which I'm going to try not to drop because they started coming apart when I started handling them in preparation for the Battlefield Walkaround. So these guys are definitely winterized. Well, yeah, look at those Stugs. They got white on them. Nothing too exciting with the counters, just standard late war AFEs and troops. And then the Germans, there they went. They're trying to run away. They already know what's coming for them. So yeah, that's what you get. Counter-wise, I am happy to report that all the counters are there needed for play. Of course, normal caveats, blah blah, you need markers, you need rules, but for normal ATS play, if you got normal stuff to play with, you're good to go. They're like missing 2 satchel charge counters, but if I remember correctly, you don't actually need satchel charge counters because they're carried by anyone. They're not carried by a specific unit. And even if you have to put it on the map at some point, it's very unlikely you're going to use all, because I think it's 6, and you get 4, so you're missing 2. It's unlikely you're ever going to need it, and if you do, I mean, it's just not the end of the world. The other thing is you'll need a lot of mines, so up to 36 anti-personnel mine factors, which is quite a bit. So that's something to keep in mind. Excuse me. If you've been in this a while, you'll have a gazillion of all the counters from different old modules and such. But especially if you came in late, you don't get like with the old modules where you get the box set with everything, including the counters, so the markers, which have mines. So if you don't have a lot of those older modules and just the newer ones, you might need extra mines. So one thing to keep in mind: the rest of the components, you get a lovely AFV card, and it does have the tanks you need, the FEs you need for the scenarios, and then 4-page actual Battlefield Walkaround. It's actually 2 sheets, 4 pages. The 4th page is the planning map. I actually like that. It's pretty pretty. So you can see what's going on there without having to take your whole map out and lay it all down. Let's take a little look at the map. This is the part where we give everyone vertigo, and glare you all to death, or just put my own shadow on the map. The map runs this way, actually. This is the ridge along which the town of Kesternich lies, and there's lower valleys on either side of it. You got a little bit of deep woods here, the dark green stuff. I'll get my shadow out of the way so you can actually see the contrast. Oh, I guess that's the shadow of the camera. Beautiful. Look at this camera work. The dark green is deep woods, or deep forest, or whatever it's called. And that basically vehicles can't enter it, and personnel can't run along it except along a path. And that's in another couple modules as well. You get tons of building, tons of rubble. There's some other normal woods over there. There's no brush on this map. Lots of hillocks. Good amount of elevation changes. It's hard to tell. I like winterized maps sometimes. I don't care about them. I'm not super in love with them like other people. I don't need a winterized map. I'm happy to play a normal green map in winter. One thing I don't like about winterized maps is that it can be hard to tell the elevation differences, because it's like white looks nice, and then lighter white looks nice, like over there. Man, I really got to get out of the way of the light there. Lighter white looks nice, and normal white looks nice, and then gray kind of looks a little bit weird, and then really dark gray is your highest. But that's just me editorializing. If most people like winterized maps, so they seem to have no problem with it. So yeah, you can see it's a pretty busy map. A lot going on. I actually really like it. I'm not a big late war Western Front World War II guy, but when I opened this map, I bought this module, and when it came, I was like, why did I buy this module? And then I opened it up, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. This looks really cool. Lots of interesting stuff going on. Lots of terrain. We've got a lot of action to deal with. And as for special rules, you've got a ton of special rules around cellars. I can't remember if all buildings have cellars. I might be confusing it with another module I was just playing. But at any rate, a lot of buildings have cellars. And there's a bunch of rules that are connected to each other, and they're also connected to any adjacent hedgehogs you may have on the map. They count as dug in 1. They count as hedgehogs. So they're really potent on defense, but they also half your gunfire factors if you're firing out of them, if you have a certain amount of SP firing or whatever. So that represents just you can't get that many people shooting out of a cellar at the same time. So my understanding of this is that these buildings weren't the super strong structures of some of the rest of Europe, and a lot of them were dilapidated from shelling and such. So the cellars were much more exposed and combined, and then used and built up as fortifications. You can also collapse them. So if a vehicle drives into a building, it has to make a check on the immobilization table. If it gets M-killed, it's not just M-killed, it falls into the cellar and is removed from the map, which is fun.
And we went over Deep Forest. You have some bayonet charges, which are basically like bonsai charges, but you have to make a usage check, basically a morale check to be able to do it. And there's a bunch of other rules for it. In the Battlefield Walkaround, it says the Americans do them, but actually there are scenarios in which the Germans are allowed to as well. So it's all by SSR. And there's something called marching fire, which is basically short-range assault fire. Bonsai charges, normally you're running, so there's no assault fire allowed. But with this special rule, you can do a little bit of shooty as you charge, which is fun. You've also got handy talkies, which I thought is funny. Germans call cell phones, or at least they used to call them handies, because I think Americans do, but we don't. So, but there you go. At least someone did handy talkie. So leaders can act as FOs for their organic 60 millimeter mortars, which is nice. I guess you can kind of see the late war shift, which is indicative of what's to come later on in Vietnam, especially, where you get those. We get much more units being able to act as many more units being able to act as FOs, and particularly with their with their organic mortars. So that's fun. Hey, you got a couple other things. You got some snow, deep snow, plowed roads, concrete armor, which is weird but cool, and then Siegfried line pillboxes. So these aren't normal pillboxes; these are special pillboxes, and you can put more guys in them. They give better defense. But what I really found was interesting was that these pillboxes are so massive that they count as +5 obscuring terrain, which I thought was cool. Because it's kind of weird sometimes when you have all these hedgehogs or other emplacements. And some of them, hedgehogs might be an example, or foxholes that are dug into the ground. So they're not going to be protruding that much. But something like a bunker or a pillbox, again, it might be dug in a lot. But so it's cool to see that taken into account, because these pillboxes are so massive. And then the last thing to go over would be the scenarios. So you've got 8 scenarios. You only have one small scenario. It's 7 turns. It's all infantry. And all the rest of the scenarios are medium to large, I would say. You have 4 all-infantry scenarios, 4 combined arms scenarios. And then you have one 20-turn, quote, campaign scenario, the big kahuna. We'll see if we can pull it up here. Over half of the scenarios have OBA, off-board artillery. And I don't mind off-board artillery. I don't think it's that big of a deal on ATS. My understanding is that in that other game system, it can be a pain because it's quite complicated in ATS. It's more than, pew-pew on the casualty table with your personnel, but I don't think it's a big deal. So yeah, there's the fall of Kesternich with the 20 turns. No night turns. I don't think there's any night scenarios, but pretty beastly. You have 2 that use the whole map, including the 20-turn big kahuna, and the rest are partial. Anywhere from like a tiny bit to maybe half. And then, both sides are attacking and defending, which is nice. There's lots of take these buildings. There's some exit units, but I think it's mostly just take buildings. There's probably some kill enemies, but yeah. Oh yeah, there's one here that's exit units. See, I wasn't crazy. My memory was functioning. But yeah, it's almost all controlling buildings. So it's going to be a lot of assaulting and a lot of defending. But you get to switch. So yeah, that is Desperate Hours 3, also known as 2 battles at Kesternich, 44 to 45. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. Come give us a shout out on Discord, on Facebook, on wherever you can find your wonderful ATSFE content. And until next time, happy ATSing wargaming.